welcome to the Millennial Book Junkie. My name is Monique, and today I'm going to be sharing with you all the books that I read in May of 2026. So I'm primarily more of a horror and thriller reader, but two of my reads this month actually that were 5 stars were not horror and thriller, so that's fun. I'm also really shocked that I was able to read the same exact amount of books this past month as I was the prior month, because this past month in May, my husband and I moved, if you can't tell from the very unfurnished office behind me. My husband and I bought our very first property, and that is something I never thought I was going to be able to do as a millennial, at least not till I was like 50. So the fact that we're able to do this was just so awesome, and I just feel so grateful and blessed to be able to have my very own office where I can do like booktube videos, I can read, I can just do whatever I want, have my own little space. And I'm really excited to bring you guys along as I try and set up all my books in this space. So we'll see how this goes. But bear with me for right now. I'm in a new place and I don't really have a lot of stuff behind me yet, but it will get there. So yeah, given that there was not a lot of time to read last month, but I did get a good amount of books in. So let's talk about them. So last month I read 7 books totaling exactly 2,300 pages. How I did that, I have no idea. It was 100% fiction. I read 2 physical books, 4 audiobooks, and then 1 Kindle book, which also was exactly the same as last month. Talking about ratings, I had 3 5 stars last month, which is awesome. And my average star rating was 4.2, up from 4 last month. So much better reading month, I would say. The first book I read in May was My Friends by Frederick Bachman. I listened to this one on audio. This book is a coming of age story about 4 friends and a dual timeline, past and present. In the present day, we have a young woman named Louisa, who is our main character, and she is a product of foster care. She ends up bumping into Ted, who is an adult version of one of the 4 friends who are coming of age in the past. Now we learn about the history of these 4 friends as told by Ted to Louisa in the present, because Ted and Louisa bump into each other in a way that I'm not going to share, but basically they bump into each other, and Louisa, who is like a teenager, she sort of follows him on his journey home, and he ends up telling his whole basically life story to her insofar as it pertains to the friends that he grew up with. And what really brings all of these characters together is the beauty of art. There are really some beautiful and profound reflections in this book about art, and I wrote a few of them down. One of them is that great art is a small break from despair. And I absolutely love that line, because to me, writing is my favorite form of art, and reading books is just like my favorite way to escape all despair. So I absolutely resonated with that line. This was my very first Frederick Bachman book, and I was not disappointed. I knew I was gonna love it. I've heard so much about Frederick Bachman, and I just feel like this story just like pulled me in, wrapped me in a hug, and was like, you are not alone, you are safe. I felt so moved by the way that these friends were treating each other. I mean, all the trauma that they had to go through, and just like being together and pushing one another to be better without explicitly saying so, because when you're a teenager, you can't really articulate things like, I love you, I want to be with you, or anything like that. So it was just so moving how these characters really just leaned on one another throughout the book, and I absolutely loved it. If you are already familiar with Bachman's work, I think you will like this one. If you are not, and you would like to get your soul pierced, I highly recommend reading My Friends. I gave this one 5 stars. The next one I read in May was Margo's Got Money Troubles, and this one is about a young woman. She's 20 years old. Her name is Margo. She finds herself pregnant after having an affair with a professor, and she decides to use OnlyFans as a way to help support her and her child. Because her mother is no help. She didn't want her to have the baby in the first place. Her father's a pro wrestler, like an old-timer pro wrestler who's never around. And she's just finds herself stuck in this situation of like, I have to take care of my baby. What am I going to do? She gets introduced to OnlyFans, and then things just sort of take off from there. To me, I felt like the story was like a very comedic yet heartbreaking tale of the lengths that you will go to to bring up a child in this world and doing the very best you can, and really just saying F you to the people who just want to put you in a box. I mean, in the beginning, she struggles with whether or not to have an abortion, and she feels like if she has an abortion, she'll get looked down upon. But if she doesn't have an abortion, she also gets looked down upon. And so I just like navigating this whole decision making process with her and going through the feelings that she's feeling so alone, trying to figure out a way to just make all this work. And not only that, but it was funny. Like, I really enjoyed her sense of humor through it all and how she navigated the situation that she was in. And she eventually reunites with her father, and like his character I really loved as well, and her roommate. I know this one is an adaptation as well. I've only seen episode 1, but the book is really, really good. I had a great time with this book. It's a really fun read, even though it's a little sad at times, but I highly enjoyed it and I gave it 5 stars. So we had a really good start to the month because I had 2 5-star reads that were like back to back. The next book I read was Caller Unknown by Gillian McAllister. I read this one on my Kindle. It is the latest Gillian McAllister novel to come out. She also wrote Wrong Place, Wrong Time and Famous Last Words, both great novels. But this one is about a mother and daughter who meet up in Texas for a little bit of daughter-mother bonding vacation time. But the very first night that they stay in the little cabin or lodge, wherever they're staying, the daughter gets abducted. And so the mother wakes up in the morning. She can't find her daughter, but she finds a cell phone and she gets a call from a caller unknown. And when she gets this call, there's this person who basically says that she has to do this very scary thing in order to get her daughter back. So in the beginning of this novel, you are really journeying with this mom as she does everything she can to get her daughter back. It is suspenseful, and you are like, what is going to happen next? Now, unfortunately for me, after that beginning part, things started to slow down a little bit and I wasn't as interested. She definitely kind of becomes this fugitive and she's going on this whole journey. But to me, for some reason, like the whole middle part of the book just kind of slowed down. I wasn't really that interested in the mother-daughter relationship as much. I found myself not really too interested either in the husband that was trying to help them. I don't know why, but for some reason, the middle of this book just felt a little flat for me, but it did pick up a bit in the end. So if you are thinking of reading this, like the end, there is a little bit of a twist. So that was good. So I did feel kind of like relieved about that. But overall, I just felt this one was okay. I gave it 3 stars. The next book I read in May was The Return by Rachel Harrison. This is Rachel Harrison's debut novel, and it's about 4 friends, and one of them disappears, but she comes back 2 years later and she is not the same. So now that the girl has returned, her name was Julie, she's the one who disappeared, they all decide to go on like a weekend getaway, just the 4 of them, now that they have their 4th friend back. But when they see their friend Julie, she looks very different now that she has returned from being gone for 2 years and nobody knows what happened to her. She doesn't even remember what happened to her. And she looks a little different. She is not the same. Her teeth are weird. She smells. She's acting very feral. It's a very weird situation. One friend is like, we need to call her out on this and ask what's going on. And the other friend is like, no, let's just let her take her time and tell us when she's ready. But things are getting weird. In the hotel where they're staying, there's like blood dripping from the ceiling. They're hearing screams at night, and like everything just seems very strange. And so as we go on, we find out what really happened to Julie, and it is creepy. And I really enjoyed this one. Rachel Harrison's writing is like biting into a double from In and Out. It is like perfect. And every time I read her writing, I just feel like I'm at home. I just feel like it's so easy to blow through the pages, and I absolutely loved this one. I ate it up. This was a physical one I had checked out from the library and I no longer have it, but I absolutely loved it and I rated it 4 stars. I would have rated it higher, but I didn't feel like it was as good as like Play Nice, which I really loved by her, but this one was really good too. So I would definitely recommend reading this one if you're a fan of Rachel Harrison, because it was really good. I definitely recommend it. The next book I read in May was Birds of Prey Don't Sing by Joe Carey. I received this book as part of a book tour. This one is about an assassin named Michael Harrier. Now, when he gets a target to kill, he doesn't just kill the target, but he actually has to set up someone to take the fall as well. Now, a few pages into this book, you realize that our main character, Harrier, is a little bit like John Wick. He's very smart, he's calculating, he gets out of situations violently. He wears disguises. I mean, that was just something that was going through my head as I started to read this book. So Harrier eventually comes across a client that wants him not only to kill a priest, but to frame God for the murder of this priest. And things get a little tricky. And I really appreciated all the research that Joe Carey did for this book to like make that something that was actually something that could be pulled off. I learned so much in this book about killer bugs, about religion. I mean, it was just very in depth, like what he was describing, and just the way this guy was evading capture was super, super interesting. On top of that, you have this investigator that's trying to catch this assassin. His name is Jordan Becker. He has his own personal demons as well, but we get his perspective too. And I feel like Harrier, the assassin, is kind of like this very likable anti-hero. And then you have the investigator, who you are also rooting for to capture Michael Harrier, but then you really don't want Michael Harrier to get caught. So it's like this very push and pull, like in this whole story, and there's action. And at the end, I'm like, is there going to be a second book? This one was really, really good, and it really had me. And I remember listening to this one as I was packing up all my stuff to move here. And I was like, this is really holding my attention. Like, I don't even want to pack because it really held my attention. So this one just had like everything I love in a great crime thriller. I gave it a 4.5. The only thing I didn't like about it was some of the banter between our main character, Michael Harrier, and his love interest. I just didn't really, some of it didn't feel natural, and some of it I was just like, I don't know if I like those pickup lines. But other than that, very, very good. And I highly recommend you pick this one up if you were looking for like an action crime thriller. It was really, really good. The next book I read in May was The Last Party by A.R. Torrey. Now, this book has all the makings of a really good thriller. You have a man who is in jail for murdering 2 young girls at a birthday party. His name is Leewood Fulcrum. You have a woman named Perla who is rich and behaving very badly. She lies for attention. She lies to get what she wants. She has a really dark secret history. She's a very, very unlikable character that you cannot look away from. And she is just obsessed with this killer, Leewood Fulcrum, and she just wants to run away with him. You also have an amazing twist. You have multiple perspectives, which make you feel like you are listening to a true crime podcast, which is awesome because I listened to this one on audio. And I have to say, this twist reminded me of a Charlie Donnelly book because it just kind of like made your head spin. And once you realize what's going on, you're like, oh my God, like, wow. That was my favorite thing about this book, probably the twist. And I really liked the serial killer perspective. Like, for me, he was like my favorite character. But in the end, I just felt like Perla was a little bit too unlikable. I just could not get on board with what she was trying to do in this novel. And I'm not going to say what it is, but because you have to read it and I don't want to spoil anything, but for me, I couldn't get on board with what she was planning to do. And I know it's just fiction and I know it's just thrillers, and I really enjoy dark thrillers, but it was really uncomfortable for me to listen to what she was planning to do. So I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. But I really did like the writing. I enjoyed the story and the twist, so I gave this one 3 stars. The final book I read in May was First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. Have you read this one? This one is about a woman named Evie Porter, and she is acting like a bit of a covert operative. She gets jobs from like this secretive guy named Mr. Smith, who she's never met, and she doesn't know what he sounds like. And every time she does a job for him, she takes on like a false identity, pretends she's someone else. It kind of is like Mission Impossible, but she's like the Tom Cruise. So we have like a female Tom Cruise, and she's not doing as many stunts, but she's doing jobs. And throughout the book, the timeline alternates between past and present. In the present, she's working a current job with a very handsome man. She's pretending to be his girlfriend. And then in the past, you have like stories of her at other jobs that she's done in the past. And they all kind of weave together until you learn what she's really trying to do at the end. And I just loved the way that it all played out. I mean, she was just so easy to like, and I rooted for her, and I really wanted something to happen to Mr. Smith, who is the guy she's working for. Even though we were in the past, like learning about all her other jobs, like I was never bored. I really enjoyed like learning about all the people she had to become and all the jobs that she had to do. And by the end of this book, I was like, I wish that there was a sequel to this book because I could totally see this being a series. Like I could totally see her going off and doing her own thing and like doing more jobs. And it was really interesting to watch. And or I guess to listen to. I listened to this one on audio, but I had a really great time with this book. This was the book that I was listening to when I was driving back and forth from my old place to my new place, shuttling all the boxes. And it really kept my attention. And I couldn't wait to get back in my car so I could continue to listen to it. I really encourage you to listen to the audiobook if you want to give this one a shot because it was good. I really enjoyed it. And I would definitely be reading more by Ashley Elston. I gave this one 5 stars. So that's it. That's my wrap up. Those are all the books that I read in May. What did you read in May? I feel like I just can't stop thinking about First Lie Wins. And now that I'm here in my new place, I will have to decorate. And I definitely have a little space carved out for my reading area. Like I'm really excited about my little reading chair. And I'm a little nervous about how I'm going to set up all my books in here, but we will see how it all goes. Wish me luck. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you're reading. Let me know what your May reading wrap up was like. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.